Hola, this is Alex. Welcome back to my channel. This is the end of week 2 on Wegovy. So I took my 3rd injection last night. This is the end. This is the review of what happened on my week 2, and it was a really different week. I had a lot of personal stuff going on. It was yesterday was the 1st anniversary of my younger brother's death. He died really suddenly last year. So the last week has been building up to that really, and I do think it's affected everything, so that's quite an interesting thing, but which I'll talk about. But firstly, the weight loss this week was zero, absolutely zero. I'm pretty sure I ate as I had been, maybe didn't stop when I was full as quickly as I should have, but really still very sensible food, still not, I mean, this is where it comes down to the emotions thing, and this is what I think is quite interesting. It's not just a clear-cut thing, which I expect it to be. Firstly, I'd say that I felt all week as if I wasn't on it, and I questioned numerous times whether or not I'd actually done the injection correctly, because I had no side effects at all. I didn't feel sick. I did have less appetite. I wasn't eating big meals, all that. So it was affecting my that, but otherwise I felt exactly the same. And it was really frustrating the first couple of days not to lose anything. So I was 264 pounds when I weighed in last week, and I was 263.8 this week. So, but 264. So really, I'm counting it as nothing. But as I say, I went through this really strange week this week, and even though I wasn't emotionally eating, I do think that the way that you're feeling, I've always thought that the way that you're feeling affects how your body reacts to food. I mean, obviously other things are, but specifically food in this instance, because that's what we're talking about. It's like it holds on to it, especially when you are used to comfort eating. So even though you're not actually doing the binging, which would be the normal course of events in situations like this, your body is still kind of clinging to it. I don't know what I'm sure there's been clinical tests, but this is how, all I can tell you is how I felt and what it seemed to do for me. But certainly the emotions that I was feeling this week, which built and built and built and built as the week went on. Actually, yesterday by lunchtime I was fine. It was like a bit of a relief, a bit of a release. I wasn't as bad as I'd been built all week, but that building up of emotions and that keeping it in meant, I think, that I didn't lose any weight. But on a positive note, if you want to look at it a different way, the fact that I did have the injection probably did stop me binging. It was enough just to curb my appetite that much to at least stop me putting weight on. So in a way, it was a positive thing, and it did its job in a different way. It got me through the worst, what will be the hardest week of the year, without putting on any weight, without binging, without putting on any weight. And because I think what happens when you do binge is that, everybody who knows this, who uses food for emotional support, it's momentary. The relief you get is momentary. The sense of comfort it gives you is not lasting at all. It lasts as long as that food is in your mouth, and then you're racked with the shitty feelings that come after it, the guilt that comes after it, or the sense of disappointment in yourself and worthlessness and frustration that you've let it get to you again. All of those negative emotions that come outweigh by far the positive feeling that you think you get by comfort eating. Me, again, I'm going to stop doing the we, you. This is how I feel anyway. This is how it affects me. So at the very least, by having the injection last week, it avoided all of that. So the emotions I was feeling were just about my brother. They weren't about me. They weren't about self-flagellation or anything like that. So even though there was no weight loss, it was a positive week. I also was starting to think, I think I'm waiting. I want the bigger level now. I don't think this is enough for me, because I haven't been having side effects. I haven't been having the nausea that I had the first week, or the feeling of how I think I described it as like a mild car sickness. I haven't had that at all. The tiredness that I felt the first week, which, you know, every now and again, a little siesta, but I didn't feel that. Did I? No, I don't think I did feel that. So all of the side effects that I had come to associate with it in the first week, I didn't get at all last week. So yeah, so that's basically where I am. It's definitely helped me this week. Disappointed not to have lost more weight, but glad that I haven't put any on. And we're looking forward to this week. Now, I've injected it into a different spot. The last couple of weeks I've done it into my leg. This week I've done it into my stomach. Just because you feel that, you know, you're kind of jumping ahead that way. It's getting there quicker. And I woke up this morning, I wasn't feeling the need for breakfast. Breakfast is something that I enjoy. You know, I get up thinking normally, oh, that's another thing I want to talk about. But normally, you know, you wake up and you think, okay, breakfast. And I look forward to have egg on toast, or I have something warm. This morning I boiled a couple of eggs and gave them to the cats. They didn't want them, but tried to give them to the cats. And I'm not hungry at all now. But that was the other thing about last week. I did feel that I had the food noise. Not nearly as bad as it normally is, because normally I have no willpower. I do think of myself as having no willpower at all. I have to not want something to not have something. The first week I felt that the food noise was still there, but it was certainly diminished. Last week I felt that it was stronger. But as I say, it's because I was going through these terrible emotions, this grief. So I had to fight against that, and it was obviously not as bad as it normally is. So because I would have been eating, so it definitely helped me. But that food noise was still there, and I was starting to worry. So again, this is part of the reason I was thinking, well, I think I need a higher dose, because everybody talks about the food noise being one of the first things to go. So I woke up this morning, I didn't really have that food noise for the first time. So I'm hoping, I'm going to look at it now for the rest of the week. This is going to be a really interesting week now, because I do feel, as soon as that day went, well, lunchtime yesterday, as soon as that, I've got yesterday behind me, I'm feeling much more positive, and I do think, okay, we'll walk forward now and see what happens this week. And I'm pretty positive. Like, even that, the weight, up until yesterday morning, I was weighing 264. This morning, I was 263.8. So I feel like I've broken the back of that. And so it was like this big dam, you know, building up to yesterday. And then the dam broke yesterday afternoon, and I'm back on track now. So yeah, so I think next week's video hopefully will be much different. Fingers crossed. So I'm going to make this one a short one today. That's all I wanted to talk about. It's a week that I'm glad I'm over with. I'm glad of the drugs. I'm glad that I got through it, and I got through it unscathed. And so onwards and upwards for next week. See you then.